I am not lying when I say this. This might be my favorite movie of the year. I think this is my favorite movie of the year thus far. Granted, it is the first movie I saw this year. So, let me share my thoughts on it. Hi, my name is Nathan, and I talk about a bunch of movies on this channel. If you're new here, down below in the comment section, share what you thought of Night Swim over on my channel. I have more content like this. Check those out once this video is over if you enjoyed this video. Also, click that like button and be sure to subscribe because it really does help a lot. And I've been getting more subscribers lately, so I would really appreciate it if you clicked that subscribe button. And so, all that said, let's just get straight into the review talking about the good. And to me, the best thing about this particular film is that it has quite a slick production. I guess, like, it's a movie that feels modern. It's made with 21st century gloss and budget. And that's the most positive thing about this movie. It has some nice horror effects, nice 21st century effects. That's about it. And so let's move on to the bad. And we have a lot of this video to go, and so this is gonna be quite the ride here. This is not a good movie. Let me just say that straight out of the gate. This movie is not good. It is the classic January horror movie. This is the first movie I watched this year, and it's a classic January horror film. It's a horror movie that is particularly made for teenagers like me to go and have fun with it. As somebody who's a teenager, I'm 14 years old, and I like horror movies. Going out to see this movie feels like it's targeted specifically towards that audience. And so, this is a horror movie that follows the premise of a haunted backyard swimming pool that a family in the movie has to deal with. And it just does not work for me on any particular level. Blumhouse is kind of a horror studio that's like a hit or miss. Where like last year, we got Megan, a movie that I wasn't expecting to be good. It actually ended up quite good and really memorable, so much so it's getting a sequel. This movie just isn't good. So let's just say that. It's a horror movie that manages to not be scary at all. Now, I am really used to horror movies. I don't particularly get scared of horror movies, but this movie is not scary to the level where I could show this to like a 7-year-old and he or she would not be scared of this movie. Which, when you're trying to make a horror movie, you want to have some scares in it, and this movie just doesn't have any of that. There is no meaningful journeys for characters, or no meaningful, memorable characters, or character arcs for me to care about anything that happens to them in this movie. And like, at least with movies like Megan and Five Nights at Freddy's recently, you actually have characters that go on a character arc. This movie just doesn't have any of that. Also, some of the dialogue in this movie is really, really bad. Like, there is a moment in the third act of this movie, and this is not a spoiler, this is in the trailer. If you've seen the trailer, like, basically, Wyatt Russell's character is getting possessed. There's a moment where he's like, he literally yells the dialogue where he's trying to play like Marco Polo while hunting down his daughter. There's literally a line dialogue that I started laughing when he went like, "You're supposed to say Polo," and then he punches her in the face, and some ridiculously bad lines of dialogue, and especially the way they're delivered, just does not work at all. And on that same note, Wyatt Russell, as the character in this movie that does get possessed, brings a total over-the-top performance in this movie. Like, it's totally over-the-top. And, like, he just is yelling out all these lines of dialogue by the end of it that are ridiculously delivered. And he's, like, doing this whole Jack Torrance thing by the end of it. And so, yeah, like, this movie does not do any justice to Wyatt Russell and his acting credits. This movie also just has no setup or payoff. Like, you think a proper movie sets up something at the beginning, develops that point in the middle, and somehow it'll be paid off at the end. That's what movies normally have, and this movie has none of that. Like, absolutely none of that. And to give you an example, a big chunk of this movie revolves around, it brings up the fact several times around how Wyatt Russell's character is a former baseball player. He's good with a baseball bat, and then he's really good at baseball. And that's a point that's shown in the entire movie, and it's set up. You think it's going to come back later in the movie, and it just doesn't. You could remove the whole baseball aspect from this movie, and it doesn't change a single thing whatsoever. So you think that this is going to be paid off by the end of it, or at least that's what I thought. I thought there was something that was going to happen at the end regarding baseball and things like that, and it just didn't do any of that. And sometimes the scenes, certain scenes of dialogue are just so silly that it ends up being funny. Like I said before, I started laughing when Wyatt Russell started yelling out all of his lines of dialogue while hunting down people. Like, it's just really laughably bad. And I don't know if that's a positive or negative. I think that might have played into my experience, but it's just so silly, so goofy, so over the top that it manages to be funny. Which is, for a horror movie, that's not a compliment. Also, the movie revolves around the premise, backyard swimming pool, and it's haunted. And so if you've seen the trailers, there's this like demon that haunts the swimming pool. And to me, whenever the demon shows up in this movie and they show its full face and everything, it just looked absolutely ridiculous to me. Like, I was just like, what is that thing? And that wasn't my experience with the 4-minute short film that was released, that this movie's based off of, called Night Swim, same name, same premise, about a haunted swimming pool. And I think that short was much creepier than this actual movie, like, where a very simplistic short, but done very well. Well, this movie, it just doesn't really do anything to be all that scary. And the demon in here, the creature, just looks absolutely ridiculous. Sometimes when people are underwater, there's just no sense of geography, with certain sequences being like shaky cam, quick cuts. And so I don't really like dunking on movies where it's the director's first debut, but this isn't really a good movie. I guess this premise, I believe this premise worked better as a short film than as a full feature-length movie, and that's apparently all that you see on here, is that them trying to expand a short film into a full movie with no setup, no character arcs, no payoff, and just some really cheesy, bad dialogue. So, but it is watchable enough if you're in for like kind of a so bad it's entertaining movie. This movie gets so bad by the third act that it actually becomes kind of goofy, and it puts a little kind of a smile on your face because of how bad it is, and you could just laugh at it. So, in general, this movie's just not good. If the teenagers are watching this video right now, you want to get your friends together to go watch Night Swim, go ahead. You'll probably have a blast with it. But this is not a movie that I in general recommend. So overall, I give it a C. And the only reason it's not a C minus or a D plus or a D, the only reason it's not any lower is because it gets so ridiculous that it actually put a kind of a grin on my face. Which is not really a compliment, but it was watchable enough by the third act. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on Night Swim. Down below in the comment section, share what you thought of my favorite movie of the year thus far over on my channel. I have more content like this. Check those out right now. Click that like button and be sure to subscribe. Thank you guys so much for sticking around again, and I will see you in the next one.